So I'm now going to show how you do some crunching. I will do a separate section on this, but really all you're showing you now is you take a little bit off the frame, crunch it up so you're cracking the wax, then you pull it back. From that, put it back onto the frame. Have a look to see the cracks that you've got there. Make sure you've got them in the right place. What you're going to do after this will be to tidy it up a bit before you put some dye on. Turn back in any parts that I want to reduce the crackle from showing. And back in the grass. But leave path uncrackled. Just take out. You're going to be careful where you put the dye, but you just do want to make sure that it shows the difference again over here where you've got grass. Just gently smooth it back in. You need to start blending at the moment as well, so it's a good way to start blending your colours before the final black dye. This will help to define, as well as colour, the difference between the grass and the path, and it'll add some organic texture. And if it bleeds a bit at this stage, it doesn't matter so much because you're in the dark colours, so it'll just add a little bit of texture to the black at the end. So I think there. And these are the shadows, although there will be another dye. These are the shadows that are going on. So, and then I'm going to define the other side. So at the moment it doesn't kind of look like there's much going on, but that's just so I'm defining the outside of it. And then, you need to clean your brush afterwards. You need to get all that in there. Drag it downwards so it doesn't bleed too much into the top. And do the same on the other side. Always wipe into the middle, away from where you don't want the dye to be. And that'll just help it, stop it from dripping when you turn it over. Sure. Here you go. Once this is dried, and then wash it, and then I'll have a look at it and see if it needs a double dye, a double black. That's okay. Oops. Okay. Hi everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to iron off. I'm going to start ironing off the batik that I have just finished. I'm not going to show you the whole ironing off because it takes quite some time. This will probably take me a good hour to iron off, but I'll show you the technique. We can then come back at the end when I'm nearly finished, just finish off the edges, and I'll show you how to check your work to make sure that you've got the wax off, and then we can all have a look at it together and see what we think. So what I want to do to start with is talk to you about the equipment that you use. So first off, I'll just quickly mention this. This is what I often use when I'm working off my oven, my wood burning oven. And I use this, which is one of those really old-fashioned irons. Now, I don't expect any of you are going to be using that, because that just really is a great way of using the oven and keeping the electricity bills down. But if you don't have that, which most people won't, you just need an old iron. Any old iron, sorry, couldn't help that. Basically an old iron, no steam whatsoever in it. You want to make sure that you've got rid of all of any of the excess steam that's in it before you start, because steam on this is not a good idea. Water and wax don't really mix, and you don't really want to get water back onto your cloth. So let's just let that steam off itself a little bit, and then I can turn. It should wash. There you go, it heats itself off. So the principle of ironing off is that you have paper. There's a layer of paper, quite a few layers of paper below. We're going to put a layer of paper above, use the iron to heat through the paper and heat the wax up, and then the idea is the wax then melts onto the paper and comes away from the cloth. It's quite a lengthy process, it's quite laborious. I'd say put your favourite radio show on, listen to some music, whatever, because it doesn't take an awful lot of brain power, but it does take an awful lot of ironing, something I hate. So what I'm going to do is now just show you the technique and try and run through why I'm doing what I'm doing and what it achieves. So very first thing to say, you don't want this piping hot. You don't want it as hot as you would for cotton. All you're doing is trying to get the cloth to a temperature that the wax will melt through. So a moderate iron is better. You then just take a piece of paper. You can use normal newspaper if you can't get hold of the plain stuff. I use this because we go through a lot of it and we don't read that many newspapers these days. But you can use normal newspaper print that's got print on it. There might be a little bit of residue come off, but very little, and you probably won't notice it. You then take your iron that's nice and hot, make sure there's no steam, and you just run it very slowly over an area as you can see, the wax is melting underneath, and then you pull it back. So you pull the wax off, you then can go to the same area, stick the iron down again, move it very slowly across, and you're taking off wax. You can do this in one area at a time, or you can go over the whole thing, taking small bits off at a time, bringing the layers down. I find this way is more effective to get it to a certain stage, because you get through quite a lot of paper, and you also have already heated up the wax that's there in the cloth, so you're just actually reheating that, and it's more energy efficient. So you just keep going and you keep going until eventually you'll get to a point where there's not much coming out. That's going to take a while for me to do, so I'm now going to carry on doing this, and we'll come back later when I'm nearer the end. Well, that's me done for the day.